When her first daughter was born, Candice ran into a problem. She wanted sustainably made maternity clothing that she would actually like wearing, and to easily mix and match garments to create different looks. But after searching far and wide, she came up empty.
I realized that it was really hard to continue to dress myself in this, the value system that I created and was sourcing. It was so hard to continue to dress and shop that way as my body was changing and then as my needs were changing.
Those needs included things like breastfeeding and accommodating her prenatal and postpartum shapes as a new mother. It was a major pain point for others as well. So Candice founded Oven Origin, an ethically sourced fashion brand for pregnant women and new mothers, which evolved from her previous company, Mod and Ethico. I'm Catherine Vasilopoulos, and this is And So She Left, the podcast about incredible women founders and the wisdom they uncovered beyond the corporate world. As soon as we met, I knew that Candice was passionate about her work. She lit up as she told me about her kids and what it's meant for her to work from home.
I'm sorry. You probably hear my little one. I'm sorry, Catherine.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
I'm sorry. Mommy's on the phone, okay?
I wanted to learn more about her early experiences as a mother. What else didn't she like about her clothing options at the time? What did you notice in the clothing design and styles that you were finding out in the stores that just didn't work for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things, but I'll just focus on a couple of attributes. I mean, the first, it was those fabrics. Even if I was shopping from a more designer maternity label, I'll give one example. I was going to a wedding and I needed a piece that would fit I was probably 6 months pregnant at the time. I needed something that would accommodate that shape. I found a brand I really liked. I found a dress I thought was really flattering. It arrived and it was 100% polyester. And if I was going to be paying that price, which was around $200, I wanted it to be something like an investment piece that I would wear while I was expecting, but I would want to continue to wear that piece. But what I think I was most disappointed about were just the fabrics. If I was going to be investing in my wardrobe, I wanted it to be high quality, natural fabrics that could wash really easily, and things like spills or milk would not show up wouldn't show up very well. And I just wasn't finding that 90+% of mothers do start breastfeeding, but very few last to 6 months. And it's not only because of our clothing, but that's of course a contributing factor, like having to think every time you go into your closet of, can I breastfeed in this? Can I pump in this? Can I wear it to work? Can I travel in this? Just having pieces that were very adaptable and versatile were so hard to find.
Yeah, that's important. You want a piece that you can keep wearing. It's you don't just want to wear it once or twice. And I think you also have this desire to have a timeless piece, as you said, like from a minimalism perspective. Yeah.
Right. And there are some great brands out there that I was sourcing for Mod and Ethico, my first ethical fashion boutique, and some other brands. Veta Capsule is one. We didn't source them, but they're just this great brand that I admired that had this capsule concept where the pieces were very timeless, but still so chic and could be worn so many different ways. So you would have a jumpsuit, but you could wear the top by itself. You could wear the bottoms by themselves. And I wanted to bring that concept to the motherhood space.
And I'm sure that trying to not just be a mother, but then you have to incorporate all the different things of motherhood into your daily life. And if you have to go back to work early, all those are anxieties, right? For new moms. And you want to have something that you can rely on every day, which is your wardrobe.
I did a lot of event marketing when I was still at Facebook. And I would pump when I was traveling. Sometimes I'd have to just go into a bathroom and pump. And if I was wearing a dress for an event, you're pulling your dress up and having to pump in a bathroom, trying to be discreet. And I just felt so exposed. You just wouldn't even believe how much you have to think about when you're toting your pump bag and your pump and your milk. And what if I have to pump on the plane, or I'm going to pump right before, but what if I'm running late for my flight? There's so many things you have to think about. And I wanted to make at least one thing a little bit easier.
Yeah, it sounds like it's very helpful, and it's allowing other women to learn and to get some kind of peace of mind and to know that they have solutions to some of the little issues that are popping up. But you weren't always an entrepreneur. What did you do before?
Yeah. So my background was primarily in tech and advertising within the tech industry, and also e-commerce. So I have 17 years of digital marketing and e-commerce experience, and then also some event marketing or just larger like B2B marketing experience. But I've always loved fashion. And then, even in my days at the North Face, pretty early out of college, I was introduced to the outdoor industry. And the North Face is so interesting because their whole kind of thesis is to enable exploration, and never stop exploring is their tagline. But it's also a fashion forward brand, and just had such an appreciation, I think, for nature and the outdoors, and sustainability and climate change were such big themes that really affected the North Face's business, but also values. I think that's where I started developing some of my own values around sustainability and preserving the earth in ways that where consumption intersects with nature and the climate and our impact. It was back in 2015 when I first started Mod and Ethico. And it really, sustainable fashion and ethical fashion were very novel ideas at the time. Like, you could find some organic brands, but there wasn't a lot of demand from the consumer. So there was a lot of storytelling. Yeah. And
we didn't know about slow fashion back in 2015. I can't remember anyone talking about it back then. It just came later, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I did a lot of educating anyone that would come into the store. Clean beauty is having a bit of a moment. And I think finally, 8 years after I started my first slow fashion, ethical fashion venture, we're starting to have a lot more awareness. But the problem that's happening now is there is a lot more awareness around sustainability, sustainable values, climate change, is that we're seeing so much greenwashing. Greenwashing describes when a company will say, we're sustainable, and they may have recycled packaging or recyclable packaging, but yet it may be difficult to recycle. It's really difficult to recycle. You may have a company that says they use sustainable fabrics and it's recycled polyester. Well, the process of recycling polyester is still pretty toxic for the environment. There's still a lot of byproducts from recycling in and of itself. And then I also, something that makes me boil a bit is that recycled polyester is still polyester. It still has microfibers that can shed into our waterways. So greenwashing is just making blanket statements about your commitment to the environment, eco-friendly, sustainability, using these terms to describe your business practices when there's really more that meets the eye.
Along with environmental impact, Candice has lots of reasons for creating sustainable garments. She tells me about the 2013 factory collapse at Bangladesh's Rana Plaza, which claimed the lives of over 1,000 workers. They were victims of fast fashion's ever-demanding turnaround times for new, cheap clothing options.
The workers they're overcrowding factories, and the conditions are deplorable and dangerous. People could see the cracks in the building, and they were forced to stay in the building, and then it collapsed. So that was around the time where I just started questioning a lot about the origins of the things that I was purchasing as a consumer. And when I thought about the lens that I wanted to focus on.
But her reasoning isn't just based on ethics. She talks about how microplastics and forever chemicals are found in certain clothing items, which can cause liver damage, fertility issues, cancer, and more.
I have a thyroid disease myself that I've had since I was 20 years old. And I'll never know if it's because of the microplastics that I've consumed, or is it forever chemicals in some of the clothing I've worn over the years? But at the very least, I wanted to eliminate that hazard from pieces that are touching a mother's skin and are also so close to their babies.
Armed with an MBA from Northwestern, Candice first found work in Chicago at major tech companies like Google as their senior analytical lead and Facebook as their lead of global marketing solutions. She spent years at these organizations and earned a healthy income, but when she became a mother, she felt like something was missing.
I think having my first daughter, so she's now 6, but after having her, I still had a really demanding schedule and a very stressful job, fulfilling and fun, but stressful. And I felt as though if I were going to take away the time that could be spent with my child, then I felt compelled to be doing something that just lit me up, that made me feel that I am changing the world, that I'm at the intersection of my talent, my passion, and what I believe the world needs. When I thought about my real passion, yes, it's sustainability and how it intersects and touches our everyday lives. But the motherhood piece, I just felt so tied to it. It was so personal. It's such a kind of beautiful and jarring experience when your identity shifts so drastically from being an individual to then giving sustenance to other people. I mean, I'm still a nursing mother and I still don't have that autonomy and independence. So, your identity shifts so much. And I was working with an executive coach at the time as well. And she actually helped me break it down into baby steps. And she said, what can you do this weekend to help give you clarity? And I said, you know what? I could sketch the designs. I could just start there and sketch them and think about what this could actually be. And that's where I started. So I took this tiny step. And from that tiny step, then I researched more about the maternity space, got feedback from a friend of mine who then became an angel investor and co-founder. All the building blocks started coming into place. And then when my maternity leave was up, I went back to work and it was time. Then I really knew in my bones and in my soul that it was time to go ahead and just go all in. And I did 3 years ago.
Wow.
August 3 years ago. Mm-hmm.
I think that's amazing because in your story, there's no more personal reason why you would launch into something like this. It's literally because you are a mother and that you have gone through this firsthand and it means everything. It could not have been easy, though, because you're coming from a marketing and sales and advertising background to now shifting into design and entrepreneurship and being a new mother. Tell me more about that experience.
Yeah, you're right. It was definitely not easy, but still exciting every single morning. So excited to get up and start the day. I have a small office, but I pretty much work from home. And my little ones are around. And even though I can't stop myself from jumping in and helping with lunch or cleaning some dishes in between calls, but I've gotten to, see every step, every first crawl, all of these milestones. I haven't missed anything because I've been here with them every single day for the past 3 years.
Oh, wow. That's wonderful.
It has been amazing.
Yeah, you're lucky.
Very lucky. But it was hard to turn away from a steady paycheck. We were a 2-income family. Everybody knows inflation is real and we've felt it as a family. So it's been really hard to fight the urge to not go back to work and have this then be a side hustle. I felt that last year and I actually took a job offer that didn't end up working out. And I think it was just the universe saying, no, this is the calling. This is the thing. And it will never be what I envisioned it to be. And I also had a conversation with one of my friends and peer mentors probably about a year ago when I was going through that experience of, do I go back to full-time work and have an origin be the side hustle for now? He kind of helped me shift. He was like, well, when you think about what does it feel to have arrived? What does that feel? And I talked a lot about the freedom of choice and to get to if I have to take my kids to a doctor's appointment, I don't feel guilty that I'm not there for, a meeting or I'm not there for a boss to have to ping me with a question. like to have arrived is it's that freedom of owning my destiny and the freedom to spend time with my children. If I wanted to take them to the park right now, I could. If I wanted to take them to the pool, I could. And so that freedom is priceless.
Today, Candice can clearly see the dividends of her work. She's able to spend quality time with her kids, which brings her immense joy. However, her type A-induced fear of disappointing others loomed large as she first sailed into the unknown waters of entrepreneurship. What was the hardest thing you had to do?
Resigning from Facebook at the time, that was really hard because I am a perfectionist people pleaser by nature, and I don't like to let anyone down. And I've spent a lot of my life, rather than trying to fill my own soul up, is trying to avoid disappointing other people rather than trying to live my life to its fullest. And in that moment, that's exactly what I was doing. But it was so hard because I've always been the overachiever and always, looking for the next accomplishment in my career and in my more traditional career. So resigning was I talked to my executive coach, probably most of my maternity leave was talking through and role playing what that conversation might look like. And just my fear and anxiety I had around actually saying those words that I was going to leave and take this opportunity. So it was really, really hard for me.
Did you ever think that, resigning is the equivalent of giving up? Because we're all trained to be in good, solid, reliable jobs with the paycheck that comes in regularly. And so leaving that is kind of like giving up on that. Did you ever feel that?
I think yes, but almost the opposite of it, where it felt like going from the known to the complete unknown. And that was so scary. It was almost like saying yes to complete, just having no idea and no one to pat me on my back to say, oh my gosh, you did a great job. This event went so well. And it's like, there's no one coaching me along the way anymore. There's no boss to answer to. There's no goals that we're setting, right? It was just, it was me running all of it. So it was the fear less of giving up and more of taking this leap of faith of, oh my God, am I actually voting on myself at this? This is crazy. So it was really scary.
Yeah, you're betting on yourself now. There's no one else to do it for you.
And there's no safety net.
No,
right?
There isn't. You just jump off the cliff and hope for the best.
Yes.
Yeah. Earlier, you were talking about freedom. And one of the things that I encountered as an earlier entrepreneur was that the price of freedom is also loneliness, because you give up the safety of the boss and the coworkers and the everything that goes along with having a steady job. And did you ever feel lonely jumping into this kind of enterprise?
I've heard that so much. And some of my mentors who I've just received amazing coaching from, I've heard so often that, it's lonely at the top. It's lonely as an entrepreneur. But I have felt, because the space I'm in with, the motherhood space, there's probably more of and maybe this is a flavor of loneliness, but yes, this idea of what do I do next? Or, okay, this isn't working. Or where do I focus on? Do I focus on building our email list, or do I focus on spending paid media? It's this maybe feeling like you're under a microscope.
You just sound like such a hard worker and a person who has her heart in the right place. And so all those elements combined create such an amazing entrepreneur, and in a way that maybe you never thought you could be. How did you imagine it initially, and is this where you've arrived now?
Yeah, it's really funny because I remember in business school, during the orientation where we're writing kind of our own obituaries, and we're doing these very aspirational, where do we see ourselves, or why are we doing this? Or, when you would icebreaker questions of why business school? At the time it was, I want to get promoted at Google. I need the skills to be able to feel like I can be at the top and to not feel self-conscious. I mean, I'm a first generation college grad and I paid my way through undergrad and then also through my MBA program and I went to top schools, but I didn't have my family to help me navigate this because I was doing this on my own. And I felt like I needed the pedigree, the MBA to prove to myself that I belonged and I deserved to be there. And I remember other classmates saying, I want the MBA because I want to be CEO of a Fortune 500 company. And I was thinking, oh God, I don't want to do that. That sounds terrifying. And then, I found myself over the years diminishing that dream in some way by saying, oh, this is my small startup. I have a small startup or my small business. And no, I am the CEO of a startup. And I put all of my savings into this. I put 3 years of, some of the most precious times of my kids' lives into this. And I didn't think necessarily that's what I wanted because I was so afraid of being the decision maker, I think. But then, you take those baby steps. It's building blocks along the way to build to build the confidence. Like every scary thing you do or every scary thing I've done along the way where I thought, oh, I can't do that, or I'm going to cancel that pitch call because I just don't feel ready. Like I can't talk to the former CEO of Bed Bath and Beyond and pitch my business. And then guess what? I did it and it went really well. It was a great conversation. Yeah. Maybe I didn't get a check, but I got really good feedback and I had a really rich discussion. And it's every scary step along the way builds that, that confidence and also your competence.
And you're right. You build confidence by doing. You don't just have confidence that shows up, especially if before you never had to make those big decisions. And I'm assuming that people listening are also going through something along those lines. There's maybe an insecurity or there is a questioning or, I don't feel prepared, but it doesn't matter. You have to keep trying.
Yes.
You'd mentioned your family just quickly. They weren't entrepreneurs or they didn't go to college. Is that my understanding?
Right. That's right. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. And so when you were growing up, what was the model?
Yeah. So it's so interesting. I come from Williamsburg, Virginia. It's a historical town.
Oh, yes.
But I also happened to grow up in an especially rural part of my town. Yeah, my mom, she stayed home with us until I was maybe about 7 or 8. And then she went back to work at like a small retail shop that she had worked in. It was family owned, a giftware and like home goods shop. And my dad, he had his own construction business for a bit. I saw them work really hard, but education was not something I was pushed into. I was this innate perfectionist and people pleaser that I mentioned before. And I did really throw myself into academics. That work ethic really stuck with me from my parents. And I think seeing my dad, he built our home from scratch. He built it with his hands. Yeah. And we were a part of that. Like we painted and we helped with, we'd sweep our shop vac after, all the sawdust at the job site, things like that. So I was very much around, working with hands and then my mom worked retail. And so I think at a young age, I was doing customer service and ringing people up on the cash register and clearing out the cash register at the end of the day and doing a little bit of that accounting type of work. So yeah, I think I was exposed to at least some of the values that I hold close today and some of the skills that I probably honed at a young age, but it was less on the academic side and more on I think some of the physical labor and producing.
Yeah, and it sounds like there were a lot of practical lessons that come from observing your mom or your dad do those kinds of jobs, and they are absolutely life skills.
Yes.
Building something with your hands or running a small business and being able to talk to your customers and offering the right change and all those little things help shape you especially like younger children watching that. You can't forget that. Those are important skills. And it's good.
Answering the phone, which is the Gen Zs don't want to do. It's so funny. But
I love the story. And Did you ever get any advice from your mom or dad?
Well, they always tend towards the safe route. So when I told my parents that I was doing this, my dad was like, "Oh no, you can't leave. You can't leave your job. You have kids. Like you can't do that." So I think they were always this like voice of like reason and a little, more conservative. But since leaving, as I share with my parents the milestones that we're reaching with the business, we launched on Target.com last year. I mean, how amazing is that? One of the best retailers
Yes.
in
That's
the United
huge.
States.
Wow.
It's so huge. They tend to be more conservative, very risk averse. Really proud of, I think, what I've accomplished.
Thank you so much to Candice Collison. You can learn more about Of an Origin through the link in the episode description, along with Candice's first venture, Maud and Ethico. If you like the show, please rate, review, and subscribe to And So She Left wherever you listen. Your feedback helps us to better serve current listeners and reach new ones. You can also fill out our quick feedback form. It's just 5 questions long, and your response helps us to make the show that you want to hear. And So She Left is made by Cansulta and Ethan Lee. We'll be back next Wednesday with a new episode. Our music is by Chris Zabriskie, edited for your enjoyment. You can find a list of all the songs you heard here in the episode notes. I'm Catherine Vasilopoulos, and thanks for listening.